Well, it's 6 o'clock, so I think we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. We're going to change our format just a little bit. I'd like to discuss, we'll discuss this later after the meeting and other business. But we'll start out here with roll call. We're right at the moment. Holly, we got Jim and Rick are absent, yeah. Okay. All right. Aaron, would you read the notice? We'll call the public hearing to order, and Aaron, will you read the public hearing notice and the staff report?
Please take notice.
Can you, excuse me just a minute, can you hear us all? Are these mics on? You can hear us, okay.
Please take notice that an application has been made by Brian and Rhonda Dobeck and David and Judy Winsky for a conditional use permit to build a dwelling on less than 40 acres in an agricultural district in La Crescent Township. The said applicants and co-applicants standing and making application are as fee owners of described lands. A hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room, Caledonia, Minnesota, at 6 p.m. on Thursday, March 28th. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to be heard relative to the granting or denying of the application. And this was advertised on March 13th. We have co-applicants here. In this case, Brian and Rhonda are seeking to split some land off of property owned by David and Judy for the purposes of building a home. A survey has been done of the proposed split already. The proposed parcel will consist of 3.3 acres along the eastern boundary of a 160-acre parcel. The area is currently production and pasture ground. There are no existing dwellings within the proposed quarter. They will repurpose an existing farm road as a driveway with 33 feet of frontage to County 25. The area is atop a bluff outside a floodplain, and there are no water features on the proposed parcel. The location, I use the word bluff, it's on top of a hill. The location does not meet the ordinance definition of a bluff, and that the average slope from top to bottom is below 24%. Slopes at the building site are approximately 17%, and soils there are class 4. There is a feedlot within the setback distance from the house. However, the feedlot is operated by one of the applicant's parents, and as such is eligible for an exemption in the ordinance. The township and the 10 nearest property owners were notified. The zoning office did receive one inquiry, but no comments from any members of the public, nor from the township. I would welcome any questions from the board on the information presented in the staff report.
Any questions from the members?
So we ask our questions
Well,
to you then.
well, you can ask just about his initial report, if you got any questions on his initial report. Now, otherwise, we'd hear from, if you got,
I'll wait until next.
otherwise, we'll ask Brian and Voter to come forward. Yeah. And just any comments you got to make about what you plan to do and when you plan to do it and so forth.
Our plan is to build a residential property on the eastern front of my in-laws' Rhoda's parents' property. We sectioned off about 3.3 acres. We're hoping to minimize impact on their active farmland, which is their lifestyle. It is on the back slope, which meets the guidelines for not considered a bluffstone. We do not have any houses finalized for it. The septic plans have already been proposed. It would probably be a walkout basement, 2-story, be a 4-bedroom house, just minimal impact to the area, I believe.
Okay, and you got your driveway, you can meet slope requirements at your driveway and all that?
Correct, yeah, it would be
Yeah.
less than the 12%.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission members?
The sanitary plan that you have, Leonard do the plan? Is he doing the work?
Probably not. We're accepting bids right now on,
Okay.
on
I'm just curious.
Who drew the plan?
Leonard Weezer.
In the staff report, I proposed some conditions to the board. One of those is something new to us, and it's a deed restriction that would go on, and I apologize, I mispronounced her name initially, but go on your folks' deed, and it has to do with that feedlot setback. And the concern would be, at some point, one of these two properties might be in different ownership, and then that setback under our current rules would come back into play. Is that, what are your thoughts? Is that problematic? Essentially, the deed restriction would say that if somebody who did not qualify for an exemption from setback from you took possession of that property, that they would need to seek a variance to operate that as a feedlot.
For myself, I don't have any objections to that. I guess I failed to bring that up with Mr. David Winsky as far as his plans, future plans for that property.
We should check to David, do you understand what we're talking about? We might have you come up in a minute and ask you about this, or you can, I don't know if there's another chair there, but.
And we're able to hear you all fine, but we do record these, so I ask that you try to get on the microphone so we can pick that up as best we can.
See, David,
And
you
see if
understand what
David
we're
does.
talking about? Yep,
Something about the feedlot?
right. You have a registered feedlot, right?
Yes.
And so a house cannot be built within, what is it, a quarter mile?
Quarter mile.
Quarter mile. So this house is within that quarter mile range. But we're not asking Brian and Rhoda to get a variance because they're family members, okay?
Yes.
But if you were to sell your property someday and somebody wanted to use that feedlot, they would have to get a variance now if this house gets approved, because this house would be within closer than a quarter mile
Yes,
to the feedlot.
understand.
So there's going to be, what, put on the deed? There's going to be something entered on your deed saying that if that feedlot is used, it needs to get a variance, okay? Do you understand that, or do you?
If my property is sold.
Yes.
Yeah, right. You can feed animals there if you want, or your family. But if the property is sold to someone else, they would have to get a variance where they could use that feedlot.
Yes, that's okay with me.
Okay?
And I slightly changed that condition as proposed to provide for an option for the county not to require it, and that we have not done one before. So if we encounter something where it can't be done, I don't want that to be an impediment to the permit if it's granted.
Any other questions from the commission members? Okay, you got anything else to add or anything else to tell us?
I have nothing else further to add. I think that Aaron did a great job of organizing all the materials, and hopefully it was presented to you in a timely manner.
Okay.
And I would point out that actually I didn't prepare this one, Amelia Miners did, so I thought that compliment should be paid to her.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Okay.
Is there a requirement for a frontage on a public road?
For what?
A frontage on a public road?
No longer, no. The new requirement is a minimum of a 33 foot owned frontage or easement. In this case, I believe they will have the 33 foot owned frontage.
All right.
So
Sounds
your
good.
acreage goes out to the road, or your at least 33 feet goes out to the road,
Easement permit up there,
or probably
No,
the
they're gonna
property
own
owner.
it.
You're gonna
Yeah.
own that property,
huh? Oh,
right?
you're gonna own that driveway?
Yes, yes, sir.
Good. Even better.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the commission members? Okay. That be it for you guys? We'll ask now if there's anyone else who has any comments about this application. Anyone in the public? Okay, there's no one else with public comments about this. And so we have all the information, I guess, so we'll open it up for general discussion among the members here. If you have any thoughts or comments? And if not, we'll go to the findings of fact.
I would ask, in the case of the findings of fact, that we bypass findings 8, 9, 12, and 14 as not being applicable to this situation.
8, 9, 12, and 14. Okay. You want to put that in a motion? We'll,
Do we read the motion, Matt? We've changed things a little bit, I'm just making sure.
yeah, right.
I'll make
No.
that a motion.
Okay. You second it, Larry?
I'll second the motion.
All right, motion is made and seconded to bypass 8, 9, 12, and 14 of the findings of fact that they do not apply. Is there any discussion on that?
I would add that staff supports that and has identified those as not applicable.
Okay. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, so 8, 9, 12, and 14 are not applicable, so will you go ahead then, Aaron, and go through the findings of fact?
The Planning Commission shall not recommend a conditional use permit unless they find the following. I'll read the criteria, and then I'll ask each of you to vote yes or no. If you have a reason you'd like to identify, please state it. You could state staff analysis if you wish to sign on to the analysis in your staff reports. Number 1, that the proposed use conforms to the county land use plan. Bob?
I agree with the staff analysis based on the current zoning ordinance.
Dan?
Yes, I agree.
Larry?
Yes.
Ed?
I
And Rich?
Yes, I agree.
Rich, we're in the, I should probably let you know, we're in the Dobeck hearing right now. Okay. Number 2, that the applicant demonstrates a need for the proposed use, and I apologize, I didn't read you what the staff analysis was in the first finding. It was that the proposal satisfies the criteria for non-farm dwellings. Number 2, the staff analysis is that a CUP is needed to build a dwelling on less than 40 acres. The applicant indicates that being closer to her parents will allow them to help with work on the farm. Dan?
Yes, I agree with your analysis, staff analysis.
Larry?
I agree.
Ed?
I also agree.
Rich?
I agree with staff analysis.
Bob?
And I agree with analysis on the notation that this is a family member and a family farm operation.
Just a second, Rick. Maybe Rick, you didn't hear the public. Maybe you should abstain from this because you didn't hear the testimony.
I've gone through it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, number 3, that the proposed use will not degrade the water quality of the county. The staff analysis is that a septic is a potential pollution source. The applicant will be required to comply with state septic regulations, thus negating the threat. Septic plans have been submitted for review with the application. Larry?
I agree with the staff analysis.
Ed?
Yes, I do too.
Rich?
I agree with that.
Bob?
I agree, plus the fact that they answered my question with regard to the design, and they are getting a licensed plumber that's gonna do the work.
And Dan?
I agree.
Number 4, that the proposed use will not adversely increase the quantity of water runoff. The analysis from staff is that no impact is anticipated. An erosion control plan will oversee the construction process and cover post-construction drainage. Ed?
That seems completely correct.
Rich.
I agree, the erosion plans usually take care of these things.
Bob.
I agree.
Dan.
I agree.
And Larry.
Yes.
Number 5, that soil conditions are adequate to accommodate the proposed use. Staff analysis is that the soil survey indicates a type 4 silt loam with 12 to 20% slopes. Slopes are the main building limitation, and it is recommended that structures be designed to conform to the natural slope of the land. A walkout basement makes use of the existing slope. Rich.
I agree with that, staff analysis.
Bob.
I agree.
Dan.
Meets our requirements.
Larry.
Yes.
And Ed.
I agree.
Number 6, that potential pollution hazards have been addressed and that standards have been met. The analysis is that septic is a potential pollution source, and the petitioner will be required to comply with state septic regulations, thus negating the pollution threat. Where am I? Rich, am I on you here? I think so. No? Okay. Bob, back to
I
Bob.
agree with staff analysis.
Dan?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Ed?
Also.
And Rich.
Yes.
Number 7, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. The analysis is the site will be accessed off of County 25. A driveway access permit, soil erosion control permit, and septic permit will be required prior to building. There is an existing farm road that will be converted to a driveway. A proposed well location is located on the south side of the house, opposite the septic system, and information on other utilities has not been provided. No impacts to drainage are anticipated. Dan.
I agree that the findings of fact have been met there.
Larry.
Yes.
Ed.
That seems adequate.
Rich.
I agree with that.
And Bob.
I agree.
Number 8 is not applicable. Number 9 is not applicable. Number 10, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted. The staff analysis is a potential concern is the existing feedlot owned by the co-applicants. An exemption from setback is currently available, but if ownership of the feedlot falls outside the family, the feedlot setback would again apply, creating a nonconformity. Because the owners are co-applicants, staff conclude that they have considered this outcome and concluded it is not injurious. And I think the questions that were asked and answered earlier reinforce that. Larry.
Yes, I agree with staff analysis. I think it's quite thorough.
Ed.
Yes.
Rich.
I agree with staff analysis. It seems like they've already taken care of this amongst themselves and know the consequences in the future.
Bob.
I'll agree with staff analysis, but make the notation that the feedlot owned by the family has been answered. The issues with that regard have been answered. The adjoining property owners received notification. They aren't able to put a feedlot within a quarter mile now either.
Correct, yes,
So-
no new feedlot.
But they've been notified, there was no response, so I'll agree with staff analysis.
And Dan.
I agree.
Number 11, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for predominant uses in the area. And the analysis is that no impacts are anticipated. This proposal conforms to the county's 1 per quarter development protocol. Ed?
Yes, I agree.
Rich?
I agree with that.
Bob?
I agree.
Dan?
Yes, I agree. Conforms to our ordinance.
And Larry.
Yes.
Number 12 is not applicable. Number 13, that the density of any proposed residential development is not greater than the density of the surrounding neighborhood or not greater than the density indicated by the applicable zoning district. The analysis is that the proposal conforms to the county's 1 per quarter development protocol. Bob,
I agree with staff analysis.
Dan,
I agree.
Larry,
I agree.
Ed,
Yes.
Rich.
I agree.
Number 14 is not applicable. Number 15, that site-specific conditions and such other conditions are established as required for the protection of the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare. The analysis here is that no impact is anticipated to the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Dan?
I agree.
Larry?
I agree.
Ed?
I agree, this one almost seems non-applicable too, but I agree.
Rich?
I agree there should be no impacts by this.
And Bob?
I agree.
Okay, staff is recommending 3 conditions. One has been removed from your staff reports. The condition number 2, I'm no longer recommending. I don't believe it's necessary to have access to the property to ensure compliance for a house. So with that removed, the recommended conditions are as follows. Number 1, the permittee shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Number 2, a certificate of survey completed by a licensed surveyor is required prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. And number 3, a deed restriction shall be placed on the parent parcel PID 080339-000, stating that any future use of the feedlot that does not qualify for a setback exemption from the proposed dwelling will require a variance. The deed restriction shall be prepared and recorded at the applicant's expense. This requirement may be waived by the county. And again, that last part is because we have not previously used deed restrictions. If there's a good reason why this is not able to be done, I want to allow them to move forward with their house build. And when I say good reason, I guess I mean if the recorder's office can't accommodate that or something to that effect. I did consult with them prior to drafting this up, and we do believe we are able to do it.
Okay, very good. The findings of fact were all approved by a majority of the commission members. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval or denial of the application.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, exactly what are you proposing, recommending?
Yes, recommending forwarding this to the commissioners.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded that this application, recommend approval of this application. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that's it's been approved. You'll go to we recommend that it's approved at the county board. So now the county board will bring it up at their next meeting.
And
for
they make the final decision.
Yes.
And that recommendation, that includes the conditions proposed, or does?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you let me know when that meeting would be and when we would hear an answer?
April 9th.
April 9th?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was that during the day?
9:30.
Okay. So that concludes our first public hearing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
So the second public hearing is scheduled for 6:30, so we're gonna wait 5 minutes for that, for 6:30 to get here. In the meantime, would the commission members look at the minutes? Of the last meeting?
I read the minutes.
Okay,
I find no errors from my recollections of the meeting.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes? If no comments, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion made and second to accept the minutes from last meeting as printed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Be prepared. Rich.
Okay, I think we're close enough. Aaron, we'll call the second public hearing to order. Would you read the notice of the public hearing?
Please take notice that an application has been made by Tanner Johnson and Tamara Bolt of Houston, Minnesota for a conditional use permit to build a dwelling on less than 40 acres in an agricultural district in Houston Township. The said applicant and co-applicant standing and making application are as fee owners of the described lands. A hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room in Caledonia, Minnesota on Thursday, March 28th. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to be heard relative to the granting or denying of said application, and this was advertised on March 13th. This is another instance where the applicant is looking to transfer some land for the purposes of building a house and would like to secure the permit before doing that. The current landowner is the co-applicant in this case. A house was previously located at this location and was removed between 2010 and 2014. In 2010, a split occurred that created the subject parcel. There was a CUP granted for a new dwelling to replace the original dwelling in 2013. However, this permit has expired because the use approved did not commence within 9 months of the granting of that permit per county ordinance. The township and the 10 years property owners were notified. No comments were received. The parcel consists of 2.5 acres approximately. There are no existing dwellings in the quarter. There is an existing driveway that remains from the former dwelling. The parcel has 450 feet of frontage on Zather Valley Road. Soils at the site are Class 2 and Class 6. Slopes on the parcel are not ideal for tillable ground, and the land has not been in production for a period of 10 years or more. The area is outside of the floodplain, and no water features exist on the parcel. Slopes range from 13 to 21%. The existing driveway is estimated to be a 7% grade. Staff visited the site with the applicant and visually identified a toe of bluff. A downslope from the toe of bluff, we measured a slope of 18% over a 120-foot segment. And based on that toe location, staff identified a 1-acre building envelope, which satisfies the ordinance requirements. Welcome any questions that members have on the staff report.
Any other members have questions for Aaron?
I think you said there were 3 sites for septic systems on that property. And are they in that 1-acre envelope, or are they?
Right, we had a licensed, and it should be in your packet somewhere, a licensed septic designer. So yeah, if you'll flip through your information, there's a printout from Beacon, and that was submitted by Chance Nelson, and he's identified 3 potential locations for septics. At this point, the ground would not allow for soil borings to be taken, so these are simply the square footage that would be needed. The type of system would be determined by the soils present on site.
Any other questions for Aaron? Okay, if not, Tanner, you want to just, if you have any comments or further thing you want to add about what your plan is?
I'm just gonna put a house where I grew up. We used to have a trailer house there, for longer than I was alive. I think my uncle lived there in the early 80s, and then my mom and dad actually got the permit the last time, and they were gonna start breaking ground on it, and a house closer to their farm, the home farm, came up for sale, so they ended up buying that. And so now I'm just gonna move out of Houston and build a house out there.
Okay, any questions for Tanner from the commission members?
Is this a prefab, are you gonna have a foundation or a
Yep,
basement?
it's gonna be a prefab with a basement.
And you've got a site, on this acreage, you've got the area where you're going to put it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions from the commission members about his plan?
You plan on having like outbuildings later on?
No, I don't.
Okay.
This parcel is in the, if I'm looking at this north-south on this back to the first page, in that blue outline, is that in the, like, the southwest corner of the 40?
I believe so. Let me.
So this borders on 3 other 40s?
This red line must be a 40, isn't it?
If you look at the back of the hearing, do you have the hearing
Yeah,
notice?
yeah, that's what I'm looking
On the
at.
back of here, yeah, so I believe that this parcel dips into the quarter to the west, just a little bit there,
Yeah.
but that the house and the majority of the parcel is it's in the northwest of the northeast,
Right.
yeah.
But it adjoins, if I look at the lines, is it right, very close to the corner point of 3 other 40s?
Yes, I mean, right, this, right
That's
there,
the
that
point.
location would be the point, so if you're looking at, in terms of how we apply the density, theoretically, all other things being equal, there could be, 4 houses right there.
Right there in that corner?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
That's all. Just kidding.
And the footprint of the house is well within the quarter.
Yep.
How close to the road is it? Is it?
We measured that. I can't remember the exact number.
If I were to, again, try to point out on here, and I apologize, I don't have an approximate location, I tried to do that, but it would be kind of where the A is on that, is that near where the A is and on the Tamara?
He's got this, and the beacon one, it's actually got a site thing in there.
Oh, sure.
He's got it.
Yep, so the septic plan has a approximate location.
Okay.
There's a certificate of survey too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not far from where that existing house was.
Okay. So any other questions for Tanner regarding this application?
Well, I'll ask one. But this pertains to the staff analysis, can I just ask?
Yeah.
On the staff analysis number 7, it says that the plan indicates water above the house will be diverted around to an existing drainage channel and is to be built immediately after construction. You're gonna divert the water after you've built the house, or you're gonna put that diversion in as you build the
It's
house?
it's in there right now.
Okay, that's curiosity, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that must have been some sort of error. They've already had soil and water on site to
I just was concerned that they built
evaluate.
the house and then there's no diversion and here it comes. Okay.
Okay, is any further questions of Tanner?
No, sir.
Okay, is there anybody here that has any comments on this application? Okay, if there's no comments from the public, then we'll move into the findings of fact. And again, we're gonna have some findings that do not apply. And Aaron?
I have identified criteria number 8, 9, 12, and 14 is not applicable. That is different from what you have in your staff reports, but those are the same criteria that we did not cover in the previous application here this evening for a similar request.
So 10 is going to be discussed.
10 would be discussed, yeah.
So 8, 9, 12, and 14. Okay, I would entertain a motion and 13 too would be?
Nope.
Thir-
8, 9, 12, and 14.
8, 9, 12, and 14.
8, 9,
yes.
12, 14, but
13
Nope.
says NA.
Yeah, but that's gonna come back under
okay,
discussion.
all right. So 8, 9, 12, and 14. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to exempt those four.
I make the motion to bypass findings 8, 9, 12, and 14 as not being applicable to this request.
Okay, seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to exempt those four findings. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, Aaron, you go ahead, start.
The Planning Commission shall not recommend a conditional use permit unless they find the following. Similar to last time, I'll read the requirement, I'll read the analysis, and I'll ask for a vote from each of you, and feel free to state your reason why. Number 1, that the proposed use conforms to the county land use plan. The analysis is the proposal satisfies the criteria for non-farm dwellings. Bob?
I agree with staff analysis.
Dan?
I agree, it conforms to the land use plan.
Larry?
I agree that it satisfied the criteria.
Ed?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree.
Number 2, that the applicant demonstrates a need for the proposed use. The analysis is that a conditional use permit is needed to construct a dwelling on less than 40 acres. Dan?
I agree.
Larry?
I agree with staff analysis.
Ed?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree.
Bob?
I agree.
Number 3, that the proposed use will not degrade the water quality of the county. Analysis is that septic is a potential pollution source. The applicant will be required to comply with state septic regulations, thus negating the threat. Septic location proposals have been submitted with the application. The erosion control plan has outlined the required water diversions and treatment to reduce sediment loss. Larry?
I agree with staff analysis.
Ed?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree.
Bob?
I agree.
Dan?
I agree.
Number 4, that the proposed use will not adversely increase the quantity of water runoff. Analysis is that an erosion control plan will oversee the construction process and cover post-construction drainage. A plan has been submitted with the application. Ed?
It seems like all the bases are covered. I agree.
Rich?
I agree. It sounds like it's partially in place already.
Bob?
I agree.
Dan?
Yes, the erosion control plan will address that issue.
And Larry?
Yes.
Number 5, that soil conditions are adequate to accommodate the proposed use. And the analysis is that soil conditions are adequate to accommodate the proposed use. I will need something further than that if I will propose something if nobody else has any other ideas. Who am I, or I guess if anyone wants to,
I would say the fact that this land has not been farmed for 10 years, is that correct?
Ever. It's
Ever.
never been farmed.
Even though it is a soil type that if it had been farmed, we'd have to, probably you'd have to not build there. But since it has not been farmed, the soil conditions and the slope are adequate to accommodate the use, so.
Had it been mostly pasture?
Since I've been alive, it's never even been pastured. It just sits.
Just vacant.
Just fallow?
Yeah.
okay, so we have a rationale. Rich?
I agree that the soil conditions are adequate considering it's not been farmed, it's been not even been pastured, it's just fallow ground. The soil conditions, the septic analysis will take care of that part of it.
Bob?
I agree with the discussion that we had regarding the analysis with the notation that because it hasn't been farmed for 10 years, meets the ordinance criteria.
And Dan, you already indicated. Okay, Larry
I agree.
and Ed.
I agree, and it's also right by a road, which makes it an even better building site to use.
All right, number 6, that potential pollution hazards have been addressed and that standards have been met. The analysis is that septic is a potential pollution source. The applicant will be required to comply with state septic regulations, thus negating the pollution threat. And Bob?
I agree with staff analysis.
Dan?
I agree.
Larry?
I agree with staff analysis, and apparently they're taking care of water runoff.
Ed?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree. 3 sites have already been looked at. While the borings haven't been able to be made, I don't see any problem.
Number 7, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. The analysis is that the site will be accessed off Sather Valley Road. A driveway access permit, if required by, will be needed if required by Houston Township. A soil erosion control permit and a septic permit will be required prior to building. Nothing is known at this time that would prevent these permits from being issued. And then this is, I think, to Bob's correction earlier, the erosion control plan indicates water above the house will be diverted around the existing drainage channel and will be built immediately after construction. I would amend that to say is already in place. Dan?
So does that drainage channel go through a culvert down into Looney Creek then, right there? Or
It
is
goes through a cattle pass.
under the road right there? Okay. I think that it's been covered. I agree with this answer.
Larry?
Yes, I agree. It looks like everything has been adequately considered.
Ed?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree.
And Bob?
I agree with the corrections to the staff analysis as you have stated.
Number 8 is not applicable. Number 9 is not applicable. Number 10, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted. This is one of the instances where the initial report indicated it's not applicable, but I would recommend that the board make a finding on this. Does anyone have a thought on that?
Well, building a house, if it's one house on quarter, it should not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of the other property in the immediate vicinity. This is allowed within our ordinance.
I would make the notation also that the adjoining property owners were notified, and there was nobody made any, or contested the request. This will affect anybody that would have adjoining property that wants to put in a feedlot, because they are not gonna be able to put one in within a quarter mile of your property.
Okay, so if you were to agree to the reasons that have been stated, it would be that it's within the county's density requirements of one house per quarter, and that all adjoining, or the 10 nearest adjoining property owners were notified, and that no comments were received in opposition to the request. I can't recall who I'm at here. I'm going to go to Larry.
I agree with the analysis as we discussed here.
And Ed?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree with the discussion we just had.
Bob?
I agree with the findings as discussed.
And Dan?
I agree.
Okay, number 11, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for predominant uses in the area. The staff analysis is that no impacts are anticipated. The proposal conforms to the county's one per quarter development protocol. Ed?
I agree with that.
Rich?
I agree, I don't see any impacts with this house.
Bob?
I agree, noting that per our previous discussion, there, it's right at the corner point of 440, so there could be 4 houses in that vicinity. It will not impact the development.
Dan?
Well, it could impact the placement of a feedlot within a quarter mile, but no one voiced that concern, so.
And Larry?
I agree.
Number 12 is not applicable. Number 13, that the density of any proposed residential development is not greater than the density of the surrounding neighborhood or greater than the density indicated by the applicable zoning district. And the analysis in this case is also not applicable, and I'd recommend a finding on this criteria as well.
Well, I think the one per quarter defines the density, and it complies with that.
Okay. So you are a yes, right, Larry?
Yes.
Okay. Ed?
Yes, also.
Rich?
I agree, it's within the one per quarter, he meets that.
Bob?
I agree.
Dan?
I agree.
Number 14 is not applicable. Number 15, that site-specific conditions and such other conditions are established as required for the protection of the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And the analysis is that no impacts are anticipated. The proposal will not negatively affect the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Bob?
This being a residential proposal, I agree with staff analysis.
Dan?
I agree.
Larry?
I agree.
Ed?
I agree.
And Rich?
I agree.
Should the planning commission recommend the approval, staff's recommending one condition, and it is that the permittee shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws and regulations.
Okay, the findings of fact, they've gone through, the majority of the board has approved the findings of fact, have agreed with the findings of fact. At this point, I'd entertain a motion for approval or denial of the permit, recommendation for approval or denial.
I move that we recommend forwardness to the county board with the condition stated here.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded that we recommend approval of this permit application to the county board with the one condition. Is there any discussion, further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that
Thank you.
that'll go to the county board then on the 9th.
See if I might.
Okay, and that concludes our second public hearing. And our third public hearing is scheduled to start at 7, so we'll wait on that a minute.
So what do we got, a 9-minute recess?
9 minutes. See, I wonder if it's fair to, can we go into other business at this point in time? We've got 9 minutes here.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so. All right, I'm just gonna pass this letter out. And there's just two, there's just 2 points in the letter. I did reach out to, Association of Minnesota Counties about running a meeting, and I asked 2 questions. And the first question was if you should separate the public hearing from the public meeting. And they answered back, you'll see in that first paragraph, they talked to the lawyers and so forth, and their opinion is that there's really no good reason to do that, because at the planning commission level, you're there for the public hearing. That was part of the discussion I had them, but they wrote it saying also it could potentially create an open meeting law, since if you didn't do it absolutely right, you'd have a meeting, you'd close it, you'd have a public hearing, you'd close it, and you'd have another meeting. You could have, somebody could argue that was 3 meetings and you only advertised 1. I don't know. I don't know if I go with that argument, but basically what they're saying is that they don't think it's necessary. So I think to move things along, we'll probably go with this new format that we have here. Second question I ask, and I think this is something that Bob brought up earlier, that the discussion among the commission members should be withheld until all testimony and all evidence has been presented. So, I mean, we're free to ask whatever questions you want to ask of the applicants or of the public, but it should just be questions until all testimony is over with, all evidence is submitted, then we'll open it up for general discussion, okay?
And the general
Among
discussion
us,
is just us.
among the commission members. So that's kind of noted in this agenda, in the format here. So those are the only 2 points that I really asked AMC for input on, and so that letter that you got in your hand is the answer that I got back. Okay, so
I would like Sam to take a look at this letter.
I did send it to him.
Okay.
Yeah, I did send it to him. I also sent it to Jeff. Jeff has a copy of it, because they're working on it. I know you guys are working on it, or Jeff is working on it. All right.
My only concern is that Sam was pretty specific about having a very concise, accurate record that you can fall back on
Yeah.
in the case of an argument about something that we had approved for recommendation.
Okay.
So that was,
Yeah.
if Sam's okay with this, then I have
Yeah. Okay, I'll check with Sam. He does have a copy of that letter that they sent me. Okay. Now, regarding conflicts of interest, I'm not going to ask you guys at every meeting whether I should have a conflict of interest. You've all read the conflict of interest statement. So if you have a conflict of interest, just say so. Or if the applicant alleges that one of us has a conflict of interest, well, then we'll have to address it, okay? But other than that, I'm not going to be asking you guys if you have conflicts of interest, okay? The other question, start time. You guys okay with 6 o'clock going into the summer? Would you rather 7 o'clock or?
No, my brain and my clock, you know, when I was going through this, I saw 6 o'clock, I don't know how many times. Then all of a sudden I realized it's about 5:45. You better get going. So, no, I like it, personally.
So,
I'm fine.
I don't know about, yeah, it's a little hard sometimes on the farm to get here, but I'm willing to go with it. You know, at 6 throughout the summer. It's nice in the wintertime to be at 6. So I'm just asking about the summer, if you wanted to have a different start time for the summer, but I'm willing to go with whatever you guys want. What do you think, Ed?
If a day goes good, it doesn't really make any difference.
Now, if there's a Board of Adjustment hearing or hearings, you know, we tend to advertise these earlier rather than later, so that if one concludes, we don't have to wait to start the other. We're
Okay.
moving faster than normal tonight, but Holly, the earliest we would start a Board of Adjustment would be 6 o'clock, correct?
Well,
Or historically.
whatever the board adjustments. Typically, we've always started planning commission at 7, and then I work backwards on board adjustment according to how many hearings there are.
Well, for instance, this month, if we had, say, 2 variance requests, this planning commission meeting would likely not be starting at 6. We would have had to start our Board of Adjustment hearings at 5 or earlier to accommodate that. So,
Okay, that's fine.
If there's board of adjustment.
It'll be at
then
7.
It'll probably be 7.
Okay, is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Makes sense.
All right. Good enough. Just one last question. That May 2nd training session, you guys all got that? My only comment on that is that's really a good session. I've been to several. I'm not going to this one. I'll be busy then, but any of you guys thinking about going and haven't gone, or those are very good sessions. Okay, you got that email. Everybody got that?
And we can keep the letter.
That's okay, our next public hearing starts at 7 o'clock. We'll wait just a couple minutes here.
hey.
I figured before you sooner or later.
Maybe they could come up and sit down so
Yeah.
for 7 o'clock.
Yeah, if you guys want to come up and take a seat, we're going to be starting here pretty, we'll start here pretty quick. Probably about the time you hit the chair, we'll start.
It's good to stay ahead of time.
Okay, we'll call our third public hearing to order. Aaron, will you read the notice of the public hearing?
Please take notice that an application has been made by Jed Hamel representing McCall Grove Country Club of Caledonia, Minnesota for a conditional use permit to operate a golf course and build a golf clubhouse in an agricultural district in Caledonia Township. The applicant standing and making application is as a representative of the fee owner of the said lands. A hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room in Caledonia, Minnesota on Thursday, March 28th. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to be heard relative to the granting or denying of this application. And this was advertised on March 13th as well. You likely are all aware that the existing facility out there had a fire earlier this year, and they're looking to replace that infrastructure. The course has been operating to this point as a grandfathered in legal non-conforming use. There are some special provisions both in county ordinance and in state law that describe how a fire affects a non-conforming use. So if I were to summarize that, it's that if it's destroyed beyond a certain extent, 50% I believe it needs to, from then on, comply with the ordinance. In this case, we have 2 different uses. We've got a golf course, which did not burn down, and the golf clubhouse, which did. So, you know, theoretically, we could process this only for the clubhouse. However, they've chosen to couple the two together in one request so that both are being operated within the ordinance. There's some historical information in your staff reports that show some images from about the time of zoning going into effect where we can see a golf course and a clubhouse. The area that they're asking to operate the golf course within is the same area the golf course currently occupies. Regarding the clubhouse, there aren't detailed plans that I have received yet, so the use is being presented in concept to include a restaurant, kitchen, event seating, bar, pro shop, office, lockers, and other facilities. I'd ask that other facilities be described in more detail this evening and considered by the board. I would not recommend an open-ended approval of other facilities in the application. The clubhouse would require a zoning permit if the CUP is granted this evening and by the county board, and it would have to meet all the standards of the ordinance. Because this is a place of public accommodation, there are specific parking lot regulations that are included in the ordinance. If you look at those, staff looked at those, and they would result in a parking space very similar to the parking space they have now. The board has the ability to modify the requirements, and it's recommended that a modification is done to require parking facilities that currently exist and determine those to be adequate, as well as meet any sort of handicapped or other state or federal rules that you would need to meet. I'm sure you all know where the site is. It's just south of town. It's surrounded by the Ag Protection District on all sides except to the north. To the north is the Green Acres subdivisions, south of the city of Caledonia. There are 3 intermittent streams mapped across the course. They flow into the south, or flow into the Crooked Creek South Fork. There's floodplain in the northeast corner of the course. That would require an administratively issued permit. Golf courses are a permitted use in a floodway. The slopes are 2 to 18% depending on what areas you're looking at. Most of the steeper slopes are along the banks of the intermittent streams. I would welcome any questions on the staff report from the board.
Any questions of Aaron?
With regard to the agricultural district, with the exception to the north, the crest is agricultural conditional use, or is the crest?
That I guess I don't know. It is zoned agricultural. I don't know, whether that is being.
It was there before ordinance.
It may have been. It may have some sort of permit too. I didn't look into that.
I guess I'd like to recuse myself from this discussion here because I'm pretty closely related to some of the people involved.
Okay, you feel you need to recuse? Okay.
I think I will.
Okay. Okay, any other questions of Aaron?
Is there anything in the ordinance about rebuilding after a fire, having to pay for it or not? Is that residential? I know there was at one time, I'm not sure whose ordinance it was, that if a resident burnt down, you didn't need to pay for the.
There is some language. We did put it into effect in this case. The exact text I couldn't cite to you now, but there is something that if you were rebuilding after a natural disaster, your application fees can be waived.
Yeah.
So we did do that in this
Okay,
instance.
all right, good, thanks.
Okay, for the record, would you each introduce yourself? So Holly's got.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm Jed Hommel.
You bet, Jed. Yep.
And I'm on the board of directors and representative here today.
Okay.
Aaron did a good job of explaining why we're here today. And, let's see, we have Bob Klug sitting to my left. He's the president of Mayfield Grove Country Club. We have Dave Saunis. He is the vice president. Aaron did a good job of explaining what happened in February. Our clubhouse didn't burn down, unfortunately. To give you a little bit of background, I'm sure a lot of you have known it or either members there. Maycow Grove is local golf course, Maple, Caledonia Spring Grove, that's where Maycow Grove comes from. We have about 400 shareholders, so the shareholders own the course and all the facilities and all the assets. We have memberships. The course has changed throughout the years, but it was actually in the late 50s when it first started being a golf course. Maybe you might know Andy Swartzoff. He was out there all the time with a little teeny tractor mowing. This one's one tractor. Where the clubhouse is right now, actually, it was owned by, I think, your grandpa at one time.
No, my great uncle.
Your great uncle,
Nick.
Klug owned it. And the original clubhouse was built in the old house foundation, and then it kind of expanded from there. So that's where the location originally comes from. It's a 9-hole course. It's pretty well known in the golfing community. It's small, but it's nice. We really enjoy it. Actually, if you take a lot of brochures from Houston County, they'll even advertise it, tourism that Maycow Grove is there. The clubhouse has seen a lot of functions throughout the years, a lot of weddings, a lot of farmers co-op meetings. It's a place where it's not in the city, it's still in the county. It's a good place to meet. We have plenty of parking facilities. We want to rebuild. We have to rebuild. We think it's an asset to the community, to its members, and everyone else. Right now, we are in the initial stages, of course, pending this application. We need to get through this before we do anything. But we have a lot of plans. Fortunately, Bob is president and everyone on the board. We have good insurance, and we're going to use it. I talked to all the neighbors. A lot of people built their houses there and actually came back to Houston County because of the golf course. We have, I think, 7 state champions of the Caledonia girls golf team. And just to let you know what our plans, if you are so inclined to grant our application for both the course, as Aaron stated, I don't think we need to apply for a conditional use permit for the course. Not that we can still go play around the golf if we want to, but we want to comply with everything, so we're on the, everybody knows of record that we are in fact the golf course out there in the agricultural district. We need to build a clubhouse. And the location of it, we're still debating that, but no matter what we'll do, we'll comply with all the zoning ordinances, statutes as we go forward. Our initial thoughts right now, if you take a look at the topographical or aerial picture that Jim provided to you, you can kind of see the layout of the course there. You'll see to the east of the existing parking lot. Mine was on the back of the notice if you had that. In fact, it's not a little different. You'll see the 3 cart sheds. Those are cart sheds. So essentially what the golf course has, we had a clubhouse for our facility. We had cart storage. Maycow Grove is kind of unique in that aspect too. A lot of golf courses are going away from private ownership of golf carts. People take pride around here, and we do charge rent for people to store their golf carts in our sheds. Those sheds are getting pretty old anyway. You'll see a pond. That is our irrigation pond. We do have a fully irrigated golf course, both fairways and greens. The plan would be, as of right now, is probably to remove those cart sheds and place the clubhouse essentially in the same location of where those cart sheds are. That's really flat ground for the buildings there already. It would be a nice location. You could see number 9 green is to the southwest, hole 8 is directly to the east, and number 1 is directly to the north of those 3 cart sheds. Well, water and an outdoor patio, just to give you a little cliff notes of what our plan is right now. We have to hire, there will be 250 to 300 people, so we do need to comply with state law with that. That includes fully architectural signed drawings. We're going to have it fully handicap accessible, which the old clubhouse was not, which, and to say, but we're going to get everything done right if we get the permission to do it. There'd be plenty of parking. So that's that's our initial plans right now. As far as the use of the premises, which I know that you guys are concerned about, nothing will change there. As what we have done in the past, we had a restaurant that served burgers, fries, and had steak nights and those type of things. We had events, wedding dances, meetings, golf tournaments. A lot of fundraisers were held within that facility, for the Caledonia Touchdown Club to with the Turkey Federation to Ducks Unlimited. It's just a good setting for that, and we hope to improve upon that. We do have a full bar with liquor, and we're working right now to get a fully liquor license to go with that. As long as, and I live directly to the north in the nearest subdivision there in Green Acre itself. If there's any issue with noise complaints, there never has been. I've never heard of one complaint for any noise complaints at all. So we need this facility. After talking with everybody, I have not heard one person against this. I think it's a real asset to the community. As far as the farmers located around us, we work with them closely. In fact, we rent some of our land. Maycal Grove owns more land than just where the course is located. You'll see there's a little, on the photograph, it's, you can see a little box triangle there. That's agricultural land that we rent to the farmer located to the west of us. Tom Hoshite rents land from us as well. And they use their facilities just like everybody else. So I believe we have met all the criteria for conditional use permit. When you go through and check the box, I believe everything's met here. All of our chemicals, fertilizers are all applied by a licensed applicator. We have, we're very blessed to have Tyler Engen, a local Houston County resident. He is our greenskeeper, and he has been for many years. He gets to maintain his certification, and he's really good at what he does. We have no complaints about that. There is no overspray at all. In fact, I like it when they do, so it gets on the nylon. So there's no problems there at all. And if Bob Kluger, our president, if he could say something, and Dave Selness, if they desire, if not, that's all I have. Thank you.
I think, I guess I had planned on saying something, but I think Jed covered everything pretty well.
Very good, very thorough, yeah. Are there any questions from the commission members of the applicants? I think it's really unfortunate that it burned down, but I'm really glad to see that you have, you're making plans, you had good insurance, and you're making plans, yeah.
I'd have one question.
Yes.
With regard to the facilities, the new location, is the septic system adequate?
We have to, right now, we're the new location, our septic system, right now, we have to comply with all new, and since we burned down, we have to comply with the current law on septic systems.
So you're gonna have to revamp that.
I think we're gonna have to build a mound system out there, just by knowing where my house is and everybody building out there. Of course, we'll have to take soil samples and everything, but when we build a new facility, we have to comply with all the current regulations on it. So our old system, I'm afraid, will probably not work for our new facility.
Same with Department of Health, for the restaurant and everything. Yeah, yeah.
Well, you said you're gonna build it, we're gonna replace it where the cart storage is now?
Correct.
Is that, well, okay. What are you gonna use for cart storage?
We're planning on, and I'm glad you brought that up, we would probably build another building. And I talked to Mr. Lichtner about this, but as far as the use of it, the building most likely, and that's something for debate, that we have 9 members on our board. We usually get to a consensus, but as you know, every board has their opinions. But I think we're gonna get there. The most likely location of it, it's gonna have to comply with all zoning ordinances and everything like that, but it's a golf course use. You can see Tyler's building, our maintenance building, to the north on the picture. It'd most likely be located somewhere there. I wasn't at the last meeting, so Bob might have more on that. Or maybe by the parking lot.
I suppose that needs power in it, right?
Yes. there's power out to Tyler's building, there's water out there as well. Yeah, we need to have we have some members with electric cards, as well. But, we'd have to put in an application to, just like the clubhouse, well, this is not the end of this going through Houston County, we'd have to get a building permit, and make sure we comply with, all of those requirements.
So that's not part of this discussion tonight, Aaron, just,
You would be tonight, these are coupled together in one request to operate a golf course and to construct, operate a clubhouse, but the specifics of the clubhouse, unless the board feels it necessary to put some parameters around that, it would simply be whatever would comply with the rules regarding structures if you approved the clubhouse in concept.
it would seem kind of jumping through more hoops maybe than necessary. I mean, if we put it all together and everything.
The reason why we separate the actual zoning permit from the CUP is to not require folks to go through more processes if, for instance, the CUP is not granted and they've already had signed architectural plans prepared. They have a lot more invested in at that point. That's the same reason we take the same approach with, the earlier applications. They also will submit zoning applications for the specific placement of their house. And tonight they were just asking for the use for the non-farm house.
So all they need is another building permit if they so choose to build the cart shed. It's just to come for building.
That would be an incidental building to their approved use. Yeah.
Well, how is it zoned?
Agricultural.
Okay, you said, and that's a conditional use.
It's not a listed conditional use, so this
not.
request is as
Okay.
in the other uses as
Okay.
deemed appropriate by the board.
Okay.
No basement?
Basically. And as far as the old, we still have the footprint out there, and we're gonna have to remove if you haven't been out there and taken a look at it, they gutted it. It's a total loss. There was we have block foundation in it, and we have to have that disposed of as best we can. We think the fire department served many there, and they worked hard at it, but they worked so hard at it, we still have to remove quite a bit. And hopefully that'll be coming up shortly to remove that. And what's gonna be there, it's probably gonna extend our driving range. That's what it's gonna be.
Are there any requirements for the debris you're removing? Is there any hazardous material there, anything you know of? Or?
It has to be inspected for asbestos.
The inspector's supposed to be coming Monday.
Okay.
It's coming Monday.
Yeah. Any other questions from the commission members?
I guess I'll ask about the other uses. Can we nail that down to what that might be?
Being an old attorney, I go broad just in case I forget something, putting it on the facility. But the other facilities that you see, it's basically what you see here. I can't think of any other uses or other facilities. Cart storage, maintenance, and Tyler shed is to the north there. That's the other facility. We do have a maintenance shed for our mowers, for cleaning our equipment. We do store, I don't think he hardly stores any chemicals out there. It's pretty much, it gets dropped off and then he applies them. So there's really not any chemical storage at all. Parking, and then in the building itself, if we're talking about the clubhouse, all I can see is it might be a little ordinary. We might have a golf simulator in there, but I think that's all encompassing to what it is. I don't think it'll increase traffic other than what a regular bar time would be, just basically like an arcade game. But we're still dealing with that. I cannot see us going over 300 people. I can see there's a lot of rules and regulations that flow into that. Most likely to be about the same what we have. Right now we can fit 225, I believe. But with some better planning and better use of the facility, probably up to 250.
The restaurant and bar would be open just specific nights, or would it be just for events, or
No,
open,
we want to change that around depending on the finances of it. But what we would like to do, and something that has hampered us in the past, is the way it's designed. When there was a reunion out there or a wedding dance, the bar and restaurant really couldn't be used by anybody, and they'd had to call up. See, we want to be able to at least separate that, so if there is an event going on, anybody can come and use the restaurant. And the hours, we don't know yet, but most likely, we'd like to have it up, open in the wintertime for snowmobiles. That when we were open, that worked out good, and when we had snow. As well as having the restaurant, because we're gonna have a nice view overlooking the pond, we'll have a fountain in it, and outdoor seating for someone to have a drink or having a meal. So we'll probably have it shut down one day a week maybe. Like, we don't know yet, we gotta get into that, see the finances and how it's gonna work. But it is unfortunate, there's a lot of memories and tradition that Club Luck, but we're looking at this as an opportunity to make it better.
So as there were no known issues with the prior operation with it, there's no types of hours of operation or maximum capacities proposed from staff. I just say that so you're all aware.
The use would change slightly though if you have the restaurant and the bar open all the time, right? Or I mean, more?
Not really, it wouldn't, because we had the last, 8-9 years, it was open pretty much all the time.
Okay.
Except when there were staff shortages.
Yeah.
But in the past, it maybe 25 years ago, it didn't have as much of a use, but they fried burgers and those type of things. In the last 10 years, there was more of a menu that
Okay.
you could order.
And they stayed open till 1 a.m. or something like that, or what?
Yeah, typically
Yeah,
it was 1
yeah.
a.m. when there's people.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions from the commission members? Okay, very good. Appreciate your report. If there are no more questions, we'll go through the findings of fact. And Aaron, which ones apply in your opinion?
I believe there's only one that's not applicable in this case, criteria number 13.
So, can we have a motion exempting finding number 13?
I'll make a motion that we exempt finding number 13 from our,
From this discussion.
from our discussion,
Yeah.
yes.
We have
I'll
Okay, I
second
have a
that.
motion made and a second to exempt number 13 on our findings of fact. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, Aaron, you start going down through the findings of fact.
The Planning Commission shall not recommend a conditional use permit unless they find the following. I'll read the required finding. I will provide you with the staff analysis, and I'll ask for a yes or no vote from each member. Ed, I will try to remember not to go to you. Number one, that the proposed use conforms to the county land use plan. The staff analysis is that section 100.0505 sub 1 goal 3 of the comprehensive use plan states to encourage and promote the location of commercial facilities so as to provide a reasonable access for the citizens to adequate supply of goods and services. Granting the request will provide citizens with access to a commercial recreational facility. Bob.
I agree with staff analysis. Furthermore, this is a historical site that's been there for many years, so we're continuing the access.
Larry.
I agree.
Dan.
I agree.
Rich.
I agree, plus I think it's a real asset to Houston County.
Number two, that the applicant demonstrates a need for the proposed use. The analysis is that continued operation of the facility necessitates the conditional use permit. Dan.
I agree.
Larry.
I agree.
Rich.
I agree.
And Bob.
I agree.
Number three, that the proposed use will not degrade the water quality of the county. The analysis is that the clubhouse will produce wastewater that will be properly treated according to septic standards. No additional effects are anticipated. The use of land as a golf course may include pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer, and soil amendment application. The applicant indicates application is done by licensed professionals when required. Larry?
I agree, especially with the licensed professional doing the application.
Rich?
I agree. They have someone licensed for the chemicals, the pesticides, and it sounds like there'll be a new septic system there, so probably, realistically, improve water quality.
Bob?
I agree, but I'm gonna ask you, did you change analysis from property to properly and professions to professionals?
In the writing or when I read it?
When you read it, you had it
correctly.
corrected.
Okay. Yes, then.
Okay.
Dan?
I agree.
Number 4, that the proposed use will not adversely increase the quantity of water runoff. The analysis is the clubhouse is not anticipated to have any effect. There are no major land alterations proposed on the golf course. Drainage will continue as in the past. There are no known issues with the status quo. Rich?
I agree.
Bob?
I agree with staff analysis.
Dan?
The drainage actually might change if you build a clubhouse in a different place. You're aiming it down toward your holding pond, the runoff off the roof, or you probably haven't got to that point yet.
Well, we would actually like to have a runoff to go into the holding pond to save on a lot of water being pumped into that.
Yeah.
Because we pump it in there, so part of our design would to use the eaves to put as much as we can off there, and then it'll run off pretty much the same where it is now, because it slopes down off the parking lot, and then it goes down into the drainage system that we currently have. We haven't had any erosion problems where it is, and I think if we're gonna put it there, it'll actually improve it.
Okay. I agree.
And Dan, you're in agreement that
I'm
would actually
agreeing if
improve
they-
drainage?
Yeah, that if they can channel the drainage down toward their holding pond, it'll absolutely meet that. It will not increase, it would not adversely increase the quantity of the water runoff if they can channel it down to that holding pond.
Larry?
I agree.
Number 5, that soil conditions are adequate to accommodate the proposed use. The analysis is that silt, loam soils are present throughout the property. The soil survey provides ratings for soils for various uses, including lawns, landscaping, and golf fairways. This category considers the soil's ability to maintain established vegetation. The soil survey indicates that approximately 80% of this property is somewhat limited for use within the lawns, landscaping, and golf fairways category. A somewhat limited rating indicates that the soil is moderately favorable for a specified or specific use. Bob?
I agree with staff analysis.
Dan?
I agree, the soils are adequate, yep.
Larry?
I agree with staff analysis.
And Rich?
I agree.
Number 6, that potential pollution hazards have been addressed and that standards have been met. Analysis is the clubhouse will produce wastewater which will be treated according to state septic standards and thus does not present a pollution hazard. The golf course may require pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer, and soil amendments. The applicant has indicated that the application of these will be done by licensed applicators when applicable. Dan?
I agree.
Larry?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree with that.
Bob?
I agree, and they did in their presentation indicate that they were going to have to upgrade their septic system according to the new state regulations.
Number 7, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. The staff analysis is that all necessary infrastructure is in place. Larry?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree that parking might be changed, but I don't think that's significant.
Bob?
I agree based on their presentation as far as the numbers that they're gonna be using with the facility, the square footage of the parking lot is adequate for that facility.
And for my notes here, the numbers we're talking are under 300, is that?
Correct.
Right.
That's under 300 in the clubhouse at any one time. You very well could have more people than that out and about, maybe.
Be rare, but possible. As far as making sure that there's adequate, we do have overflow parking if that ever became an issue. There's actually parking where the sheds are and where the new building is. We're probably gonna have more parking. And especially if we put the cart shed to the north where the maintenance shed is. We have a lot of older golfing members that use golf carts. If we put it out there, we don't want them to walk from our parking lot all the way to the carts, so we'd have to put some parking stalls there so they could just walk from the car right to get their cart.
Right.
We're assuming probably about 20 parking spaces out by the cart shed.
Out by the shed,
Could
okay.
be possibly 20.
How much hazard is there gonna be for those people that park out there alongside the driving range?
It'll be on the east side.
Not for the people with a bad slice.
I've seen the dents that are in that maintenance shop. So I know what you're talking about.
They'll be behind the shed.
So we're on that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. Dan?
I agree.
Okay, number 8, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading space to serve the proposed use. The analysis is an existing parking lot exists and reasonably provides the area specified by the Houston County zoning ordinance. Larry?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree, but plus we just had the discussion about additional parking, so I don't think that's a problem.
Bob?
I agree with staff analysis and Rich's interpretation.
Dan?
I agree.
Number 9, that facilities are provided to eliminate any traffic congestion or traffic hazard which may result from the proposed use. The analysis is that access is provided off State 44-76. MnDOT has been notified of the application. Staff did not receive any comment at the time of preparation of this report. Access from a public road must be granted from the road authority, and consideration is based on the proposed or observed use rather than the zoning approval. And since this went out, I did actually receive a comment from DOT, and I'm just going to confirm here, but I believe that they said that no impacts were anticipated. So MnDOT did respond to the notification. They say that this proposal appears to have no significant impact on MnDOT roadways and is acceptable to MnDOT.
Can I hit one thing? I'm sorry.
Yep.
There's only been one time where any cars were ever parked on the road, and that was a fire. So for the events that we've had for 40, 50 years, we've never had people parking on the road for any dangerous condition for access to it or over parking. We've always provided.
Okay, Rich?
I agree with the analysis, plus historically that access has never been a problem. I don't see why it would be now.
Bob?
Based on MinDOT's notice of approval, I agree with staff analysis.
Dan?
I agree with what Bob said.
Larry?
I agree with staff analysis. I think specifically because they have a history they can refer to.
Number 10, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted. The clubhouse and golf course are proposed to continue in the same manner of operation that has occurred during the last half-century. Zoning is not aware of any past issues due to either the clubhouse or the golf course. Bob?
I agree with staff analysis with the notation that it's not going to be injurious, it's going to be beneficial to the area.
Dan?
I agree.
Larry?
I agree.
Rich?
I agree, especially with Bob's comment.
Number 11, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for the predominant uses in the area. Development has occurred around the golf course over the last half century. Reestablishing the non-conforming use as a conditional use will not affect the predominant uses, residential to the north and agricultural to the south. Dan?
I agree, it will not affect or change anything that's been going on there for years.
Larry?
I agree with staff analysis and comment that it would be an improvement for the area.
Rich?
I agree.
Bob?
I agree.
Number 12, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibration so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result. No odor, fume, dust, or vibration is anticipated. There is potential for noise due to events at the clubhouse. However, there are no known prior complaints of this. The application does not contain requests for signage. Is that correct? No.
No, well, there is a sign that is existing, nothing new as of this time. There's
Okay.
a concrete sign that says Maykel Grove, something.
No plans.
Southeast Minnesota. Secret. Yeah. That's not changing.
Won't be illuminated or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Larry?
Yes, I agree with staff analysis. Again, we have the advantage of history that we can look back and they have a good history.
Rich?
I agree.
Bob?
I agree with staff analysis. If there is any noise issues, they can redirect their speaker system.
And Dan?
I agree, you do have a good history. You don't have any plans for outdoor musical events or things like that with amplified music or anything like that?
No.
That'll all be in the clubhouse?
Be all in the clubhouse. And
Okay.
so, in the past, there is a speaker system outside, and maybe I can hear it from my house once in a while, where the announces the scores and that type for tournaments, but no loud outdoor concerts or anything like that.
Okay,
No plans for that.
okay. Agreed.
Number 13 is not applicable. Number 14, that the intensity of any proposed commercial or industrial development is not greater than the intensity of the surrounding uses or not greater than the intensity characteristic of the applicable zoning district. Staff analysis is that a motel operates to the west that is compatible with this proposal. No effect is anticipated on the industrial land to the north or the agricultural land to the south. And, Rich?
I agree with the staff analysis.
Bob?
I agree with the staff analysis. There's not going to be an increase of usage based on the normal operation.
Dan?
I agree.
Larry?
I agree.
Number 15, that site-specific conditions and such other conditions are established as required for the protection of the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Analysis is that the request is to continue a use that has occurred for the last half-century, and in doing so, ensure compliance with all applicable standards. Operation under a CUP is not anticipated to result in any reduction to the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Bob?
I agree with staff analysis. This is going to be a new facility with improved, all the improved benefits that the new facility is going to bring.
Dan?
I agree with the analysis.
Larry?
I agree with staff analysis.
Rich?
I agree.
Should the board vote to recommend approval of the permit, staff recommend 3 conditions. First, the permittee shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Secondly, that the county may enter onto the premises at reasonable time and in a reasonable manner to ensure the permit holder is in compliance with the conditions and all other applicable statutes, rules, and ordinances. And third, that a minimum of 30,000 square foot of parking shall be required. The existing parking lot is estimated to be, well, actually, I may want to reword that. I guess what I'd like to accomplish with this last condition is for the planning commission and ultimately the county board to specify that the parking requirements that will apply to this permit will be the square footage that currently exists at the facility.
Based on occupancy?
Right, based on, I think I covered it in the staff report here.
Yeah.
Based on 250, I think I calculated 30,000 square feet needed, and they estimated the existing lot to be 32,000 square feet. So that doesn't include the access lanes that would be in a lot, but it's probably pretty close, and if the planning commission chose to, they could say that that's what it's going to be. It's sufficient. They could certainly go above and beyond that and make their overflow parking if they wanted to, but they wouldn't be required to.
You're saying they're required to have a minimum of 32,000 square feet? Is that what you're saying? 30.
Of approximately 30, and again, I'm not including the access lane, so there's,
Okay.
we're not talking precise numbers here, but my point is that what they have is close to what they'd be required to have, and to simplify things, the board could simply say you're required to have the space you currently have.
Okay.
Well, and I'm guessing that I don't know if it's an issue, but they're gonna build a cart storage someplace to ensure that it's not, wouldn't reduce the parking.
I would think inadequate parking would not be a good business model, so they would.
Yeah, that's what I was, I'm not sure why it's there, I guess.
Well, the only reason it's there is because we have a section of the ordinance that specifies what the
okay.
parking lot area must be, and the board has the ability to override that. So rather than us doing a bunch of calculations and figuring out precisely, because we are in that range right now, you could simply say that what you have is sufficient.
The existing parking lot is sufficient based on the occupancy that they're anticipating, so.
Well, if we're gonna put it in there, I think we gotta have a number. It just say, well, let's just have whatever we got. Doesn't make sense.
Okay, and I agree with you there. So I think that's where I was headed here.
Yep.
So we would start and say a minimum of 30,000 square feet of parking area shall be required, and we would leave in here, the existing parking lot area is estimated to be 32,000 square feet.
I think just leave it that way.
Sure.
Okay.
Now that we have it, I mean, now I know why it's there.
Yeah. Those are the only conditions that I'm recommending.
Okay, majority, the findings of fact have, majority of the commission has approved the findings of fact. So at this point, I'd entertain a motion. for
I would
recommend-
make a motion to recommend approval to the county board with the 3 recommendations noted.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend that this application be approved with the 3 conditions attached, and you know what they are, that-
As discussed.
as discussed, yeah. Okay, any discussion? There's no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to the county board, April 9th.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to add, that was a
Good luck.
great cross-country place to run. We ran it in the 70s, and it was just a joy.
Thank you. I don't
Good
know
luck.
where I
Appreciate
went
you guys
somewhere.
heading that up.
We got a
Yep.
lot of
Thank you.
papers, sir.
Yeah, I need to get a staple.
Talking and looking doesn't always go very well.
No, it don't. I'm doing
Okay,
talking,
we've done
looking,
the
and typing.
minutes.
Yeah,
Any
that's-
other business?
That's
Let's talk
multitasking
about.
twice.
Yvonne, did you? Okay. Okay, any other business? Not an entertain a motion, adjourn,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
seconded,
I'll second it.
motion made, seconded, adjourn, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.